The United States is finally, after 20 years, leaving Afghanistan. Biden said 20 years is too long and let the Afghans work it out. Amen to that. Also, why are we leaving troops there? Why don't we just get everybody out? And also, what about reparations? Can we talk about actually giving money to help people rather than giving money to things that they don't need? And if there was any more of a sign that this war was both BS, it's that the amount of waste, I believe, is unrivaled. So the war in Afghanistan didn't just cost a lot of taxpayer dollars. It wasted taxpayer dollars. Now, I don't mean it wasted taxpayer dollars because it was a bad war to begin with and what did we really, need to do there? No. It straight up budgetary flaws, cooking the books, money disappearing, projects never finished, projects and things that don't work, waste taxpayer money. Okay, so let's look at that. First, there is, hang on, I've got a graphic and I cannot pull it up. Here we go. So what is the overall cost of war? So this is from Brown University, has a study from 2001 to 2021. The total cost of the war in Afghanistan, $2.26 trillion. Trillion, which is the exact amount that Republicans don't want to pay into Biden's infrastructure plan in order to get any semblance of climate change under control, and help home care workers or, help people go to college. $2.261 trillion. So there's obviously there's veterans, medical and disability, which is only about $300 billion. That I would argue that's worth it. There's additions to Department of Defense base. There's Department of Defense OCO operating costs, I assume. And then there's all the interest on war borrowing. $530 billion on war borrowing. Good God, who do we have to pay that back to? Is that ourselves? Is this China? Who do we owe? Of course, we know, we've talked about on the show that, oftentimes when it comes for money for war, you just print it. Nobody asks questions. Nobody cares about inflation. But whenever it comes to healthcare or fixing a road or, education, let's have a bake sale. But let's get into this. Let's look at exactly the kind of waste we are talking about, because we know, thanks to a special inspector general for Afghanistan reconstruction, or SIGAR, which was a military agency set up by Congress to audit U.S. spending in that country. I believe is a man named John. I'll get to his name, but anyway, basically they were like, all right, let's do an audit of what we spent in Afghanistan. Great. And now I'm going to show you a series of headlines, and we're just going to look at the insanity here in terms of what we actually spent money on. Okay. So here we have an $85 million hotel in Kabul that never actually was built. So the Marriott Kabul Hotel, or sometimes the Marriott Grand Hotel Kabul, or sometimes Trump Kabul, who knows? This is so Trumpian. It promised 200 rooms, jobs for Afghan people. In a 2000 press release, it announced initial loans of $60 million for the project, right? Now, this is also, part of me is like, how do they get the money? So they got the money through an organization, a financing agency called the Overseas Private Investment Corp. I don't even want to, I assume it is a private and public no bid contract type situation, but for rebuilding. So A report by the Office of Special Inspector General for Afghanistan Reconstruction, military agency set up by Congress to audit U.S. spending, describes how the project went so wrong. The agency's preliminary investigation found troubling management practices and lax oversight by the U.S. financing agency. The Overseas Private Investment Corp, OPIC, is an agency run by the U.S. government that uses private money to finance development projects overseas. According to the report, which is based on 2 inspections this year, the agency placed too much trust in progress reports by the companies managing the construction. Okay, so this is from the report. The OPIC did not regularly visit the sites. So the financing agency never visited the actual sites that they were financing or have an on-site monitoring presence at either construction project, but instead relied on almost exclusively on representations made by the loan recipients regarding the status of the projects. As a result, the $85 million in loans is gone. The buildings were never completed and are uninhabitable. And the U.S. Embassy is now forced to provide security for the site at an additional cost to U.S. taxpayers. So, okay, the company did not respond to a request for comment. That's great. So the Marriott withdrew its support in 2013. Here you have an unfinished hotel bedroom. So this is just one of the many projects. The Grand Hotel of Kabul now just sits like a dope music video site because it was never finished. $85 million. All right, that's one. 2, the U.S. paid for the world's most expensive gas station in Afghanistan. I told you this was going to get painful. This is according to the same report that from the Inspector General, right? The station should have cost $500,000. $500,000. But in this case, the Department of Defense's Task Force for Stability and Business Operations awarded the Central Asian Engineering a contract to build the station for a little under $3 million. Okay, very expensive gas station, but somehow spending got out of control. Here's how the Inspector General explains it in this report. The task force spent $42.7 million. What? Between 2011 and 2014 to fund the construction and to supervise the initial operation of the station. Approximately $12.3 million in direct costs and $30 million in overhead costs. To make matters worse, the Inspector General found that the Department of Defense didn't even study whether a natural gas station would be used in Afghanistan. And when the Inspector General came asking questions, the Department of Defense said that all the people who worked on the project were gone. So they couldn't provide answers as to why a project that should have cost $500,000 ended up costing nearly $43 million. That is insane. Okay, so it goes on. The Inspector General Sopko, talks to DOD, but there's a pattern emerging here, and I want you guys to think about how shady it is that private companies, thanks to the Department of Defense and the U.S. military, were able to overinflate costs on projects they never delivered on. And what kind of clientele and what kind of financing might have been at the root or could be at the root of these kinds of very bizarrely unfinished projects, man. I know I sound like the dude reading the news. I don't care. Big Lebowski for life. Let's keep going. Here's another one. It keeps going, guys. It keeps going. So this is a hospital. Ooh, well, look, Afghans need hospitals, least of which to recover from all the, injuries that Americans are raining down upon the civilian population. Okay, this is a hospital that cost the United States $14.6 million. Okay, it was supposed to be a lot less than that. All right, so here we have this Inspector General found that the International Development, the International Organization for Migration, sorry, let me just read this. The hospital is not a military project. It was built to treat civilians. Construction began in 2008 as a part of a 3-year contract between the U.S. Agency for International Development and the International Organization for Migration, which would handle the hiring of contractors. It was supposed to be finished and handed over to the Afghan Ministry of Health by 2011, but that didn't happen. The date was pushed back to June 2013 in a contract with an Afghan building contractor. Then later that year, the Inspector General found out that that IOM had overpaid the contractor by at least $507,000 for diesel fuel and a thermostat device. The IOM eventually repaid the money to USAID. Well, that's good. New contractors, so like 3 contractors now, they were supposed to finish the hospital by 2014. By that summer, however, the hospital was still unfinished. It took another 1.5 years for the hospital to be completed, enough to hand over to Afghan authorities. USAID formally shifted control of the hospital in March 2016, nearly 5 years late, saying it was mostly finished with only minor repairs left to do at $14.6 million, and they couldn't even finish the hospital. Yay. Good job, USAID. Now, what about that hospital? Okay, let's look at it. The auditors last year found 42 construction deficiencies. Despite millions of dollars and years of work, parts of the roof were leaking or containing standing water. Doors were missing handles, and one of the water towers was leaking. The hospital had not been reinforced to withstand earthquakes. Fun. The hospital is built on an active fault. Oh my God. Oh my God. Fire alarms were missing in some parts of the hospital, and if there was a fire, there was no emergency lighting. Also, some exit signs pointed the wrong direction. Oh, so it's a death trap. So it's a hospital that if you make it out of there just from your regular injuries and something happens in it, you ain't getting out alive because there's not enough emergency lighting and exit signs point you in a different direction. And also it's on a fault line. Oh my God. Only 13 of the 42 deficiencies have been fully addressed. This article is back from 2016. So again, this is years ago, but I wonder what condition that hospital is in now. But it gets worse. And this is the last one I'll show because there's so much more. But here is a military facility. That we spent a lot of money on. And the headline is a $34 million waste of taxpayer money in Afghanistan. Which one? How many wastes? Is this the same $34 million as the $85 million? Which I can't keep track. Oh, guess what? They can't either. Thank God we have an inspector general. So we know all this. I'm only being slightly honest because I really believe I'd rather not know a lot of these things. It's too depressing. Okay. So this is all right. I got to read some of this. I just have to read this. So this is the same inspector general looking at this facility, and the millions of dollars that were poured into it. So this is from the Inspector General says, the joke in my office is we will eventually see a base where on one side of the base they're destroying it, while the other side of the base they're building it, and they will probably meet in the middle. Oh my God. Oh my God. The facility in question is Camp Leatherneck. So it is a U.S. Marine base in the Helmand province of Afghanistan. The history of the project, originally intended as a command center for the, quote, surge of U.S. troops. Remember, 100,000 troops under Obama, and reveals gaps in planning, coordination, and execution, SOPCO says. So called the Regional Command's Southwest Commander. Listen to how weird this name is. Called the Regional Command Southwest Command and Control Facility. I feel like there's one too many commands there. How many? Can we add another command? Will it fix the gaps in planning if we add another command in there? I feel like the name screwed it just from jump. The new building offers 64,000 square feet of space for more than 1,000 military personnel, including accommodations for a 3-star general. Ooh. because you know you can't stay in the Marriott Kabul because it doesn't have doors. It's the, quote, Taj Mahal of command centers, Sopko tells Robert. However, even under the best case scenario, only 450 people may be able to use the building today, which would result in excessive operation and maintenance costs because cooling systems would be underutilized. The Afghan government also isn't likely to be able to use the facility because it was built to U.S. standards. This is my favorite part of this. Its electrical system uses 60 hertz cycles per second and 120 volts, for instance, instead of the Afghan standard of 50 cycles and 220 volts. They couldn't get the effing electricity right. They couldn't get the right voltage in the country that they were in. This is a command center. And 64,000 square feet, but they can't even fill it because apparently the maintenance costs on this thing are too high. Sopko goes on to say that construction. Oh, hang on. There's a part in here where he basically says that construction on a lot of these projects began even though the United States was pulling out of Afghanistan. Just give the people the money, bro. Just buy a farmer back their goats that you destroyed. Give them back their land that you riddled with mines. Clean their water system. Build it out. Send some Mormons in there. Now, I said earlier, and it really, it might just be because I have been watching Ozark and my mind is here, but this amount of waste and negligence coming out of the U.S. military, the Department of Defense in Afghanistan, with all these unfinished projects that cost millions and millions of dollars that actually never were finished, a $40 million gas station. Bro, are we not laundering money through this? Has Afghanistan just turned into a giant money laundering operation for international drug rings? How is it not? Someone lay out the argument that is not exactly what's been going on. We all know Afghanistan has a ton of opium production, right? In fact, opium production has gone up. Just like the Taliban has increased their influence, so is opium. Tell me that they are not laundering, not the Taliban necessarily, but that drug rings and cartels are not laundering money through Afghanistan. It's a pretty good idea. Jason Bateman in Ozark taught me that. Oh, man. Roosevelt Republicans of America, not sure how long Mormons will last before ransoms. It's so true. But the U.S. government will pay the ransoms to get the Mormons out, if they're white, of course. Let's send Romney in first. Hell yeah. That guy can smile the pants off the Taliban. Hey, I'm a good Republican. I voted to impeach President Donald Trump, okay? Can I have some more money? Ray Turner, Bearded Dragon says, I'm thinking of the London financial sector, the city of London financial sector. Winky face. Yeah. I don't know what I'm thinking of, but I am absolutely astounded that we've wasted that much money. So once again, this is not about morality. It's not about right or wrong. It's America can't even do our shitty stuff well. Even when we set our hearts on destroying another country, we can't even do that right unless the entire point was to use Afghanistan as a giant money laundering operation, because that's exactly what it feels like. So anytime anyone tells you we don't have the money to spend on a Green New Deal, we don't have the money to spend to help home care workers, we don't have the money to extend unemployment benefits, we don't have the money, shh. We got the money. It's in your goddamn pocket. It's in someone's pockets, okay? And I hope all of their Caribbean vacation homes get flooded from climate change. Hey, thanks so much for watching the Bitchuation Room podcast live stream. And while you're here, why don't you just subscribe to this channel? I promise it'll be good.